What's up, everybody? It's Chris with DigitalREM. I have a quick question. Have you ever wanted to model your own ring or model your own engagement ring or anything like that for somebody else or for yourself? Well, in this course, I'm actually going to show you how to model your ring in Blender using Blender, but how to model a custom ring. This is the beginning stages of that, or the beginning video for that, the first video where we're going to cover the foundation of setting up your scene to be able to model. So we're going to cover three things in this video. The first thing we're going to cover is how to set your Blender scene to scale to the proper size of scaling for modeling jewelry. The second thing we're going to cover is how to take the size of your ring, or your finger size, or the finger of whoever you're modeling for, but their finger size, and actually size your model to look to be the exact finger size or the exact ring size of that person. The third thing we're going to do is show you how to create the mesh or the base mesh for modeling your ring. So the base mesh is used to build upon, and that's how I'm going to show you how we're going to be able to start this process of taking the measurements and creating a base mesh that you could build upon to become more decorative or more traditional. Pretty much just the starting foundation of creating a ring. So we're just going to hop right into it. Okay, so right now we have Blender open right now. So first thing I want to do before we even hop into Blender, I want to explain the scaling process of how rings are modeled in Blender, and also show you kind of the results you can expect in the end result of what you can expect. So let's just switch screens here. So we have a screen over here. So this is one of the rings I created. And what we're going to do without the stones or without the settings here, we're going to basically cover how to create this cylinder shape that would go around your finger. So we're going to create a shape, start this process of creating this shape to go around your finger. And then in the later videos, we're going to cover how to add the stones and add the cuts and add the prongs and add things like that. But again, this is the foundation video to get you started, to get familiar with modeling to scale and modeling jewelry in Blender. The other part here, as you can probably, as you notice, I have this ring scale sizes over here. So it goes from 3 to 13, and if you can see here, if I can zoom in maybe, so you can see better. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah. So if you can see here, we're probably gonna do a 7, a size 7, but at a 17.3 millimeters. So that means 17.3 millimeter diameter from here to here, which is essentially the size of your finger. So that's what we're gonna model. So again, we're gonna cover how to set your scene up to model in millimeters, then how to create this inside diameter to size 7, 17.3, and then how to create this mesh to even look metal and extrude out like this. But how the technique I use to create the mesh, so when I can later on add extra elements or make it a little more decorative. So we're just gonna hop right back into the scene and hop back into Blender. Boom. So we're back in Blender. Let me get comfortable. All right, so we're back in Blender. So this is my startup file. Yours will probably just come with the square at the bottom, but actually we're going to use a square so you can see when we set up our scale size. So currently, how I usually model is in what is considered the imperial system. So the imperial system, if you go to the world, this little world here, and then one above it where it has a triangle to a circle, you can see this new list of options, and you want to go to units. Under units, you'll see it says unit system. Unit system being either you can have imperial or a metric. You know, Google them if you don't know the difference between imperial and metric, but more than likely you do. So we're gonna switch over to metric. Now we're over in metric. So now we can see how big this is. So right now it's at 0.305 meters. So if we had it at 1 meter, that would be 1 meter wide here. So we don't want it in meters, we want it in actual millimeters. So we're going to go back over here, and if you accidentally toggled out of here, remember it's triangle context scene, under units, metric, then you're going to add the length, and it's going to be millimeters. And now you can see that 1 meter turned into 1,000 millimeters. So it's still 1 meter, but now it's under the label of millimeters instead of meters. So it's 1,000 millimeters, just like 1 foot is 12 inches. So essentially the same thing. So now we want to, let's just go ahead and make this the size of the size 7, the 17.3 millimeters of our ring. We're not going to really use this for our model, but I just want you to see how, you know, you're seeing changes, or how things change when you change the scale of the size. So now that we're not in feet anymore, look how small this is in comparison. So now we're just gonna, just like that, boom. Actually 17.3, let's just go ahead to 17.3 around the world, boom. And I'm gonna go ahead and snap that to go to object, snap cursor to world origin. So that's gonna put the cursor in the middle of the whole of the world, of the 3D world. And then I'm gonna go ahead and snap the object to the cursor, selection, snap that box to the cursor that I put at the world origin, and bye, there you have it. Now one of the things that I have altered in my startup file, but if you're, let's say you're trying to zoom in and it's clipping, and clipping is like this. Let's say I'm gonna go in and change my settings, then go back out to show you how to fix it. So let's say you have it at clipping at 100 maybe. There we go. If your scene is doing this, where your start clipping is clipping too soon, and this actually can be less. This can be like 10,000. If your start clipping is clipping too soon like this, what you want to do is go to clip start. So essentially there's a beginning point from your camera where it doesn't calculate anything. So you want that as close as possible. So we're gonna go ahead and start from like 0.01. And that's gonna allow you to zoom in far enough to where you can work with it, you know? Just like that. I'm saying, you know, like you can hear me, but you know. Anyway. So now we have this 17.3, 17.3, 17.3 XY and XYZ for the box. But we're not going to use this box. I was just showing you, that was the first thing I want to show you, is just basically how to set your scene to metric, set it to millimeters, keep it at 1 here, and pretty much you know, use your view when you select something. Use your items part, and then under dimensions, don't do it under scale, but under dimensions, make your settings. So if it's at 2 millimeters, at 3 millimeters, whatever, set your settings there. Not the scale though. Make sure it's at dimensions, and there you'll have it. So when you do have it at the dimensions you want to, so like say 17.3 is the default, you can actually object and go ahead and apply all transforms to delta, and that's gonna 0 everything out, and 1 make the scale 1 everything out. So if you do end up scaling it, you know, whichever ways, you can always go back to 1. That's a good trick to know, but that's a good trick to know later on in a good modeling practice. So now that we create the cube, we're good on that. So what was the second part I was going? The second part is making the ring to scale. So now we know this is 17.3, the diameter here. We don't necessarily need that, but I'm gonna leave that there. I put the 3D cursor at the center of the world because when you create a new object, that's where the the object is gonna pop up. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new object. There are multiple ways of doing this. I work with meshes. You can do curves, but I'm gonna show you the method of doing it with meshes. Mesh, I mean. So, you know, follow along. So under mesh, you can add mesh. Go to circle. Boom, circle is made, just like that. Now you see the circle dimensions. Well, before you click on anything, this is a very important point. There's some attributes here that pop up below where you can select the number, like vertices being each individual point around the circle. The more points around the circle you have, the smoother it will be. So we're just gonna leave it at 32. The default is pretty good. You can set the radius. This is where you can actually set the radius. So we had it as a size 7. So the radius being half of the diameter. So half of 17.3 would be 8.65. So I believe that's right. So 17.3. Yep, exactly. 8.65. And you see my dimensions changed to 17.3 millimeters. I didn't change it over here first because once you have your settings set here, you can't go back to this. So I want to kind of get my settings in here first, make sure everything is right, and then when I click out of it, these settings are going to go away. And I'm go ahead and rotate this on the 90. Go ahead and rotate that 90 degrees. Boom, like that. I'm gonna go ahead and move it up on the Z-axis. Oh, a little too fast. I can wait. Oh no, there we go. Have to control Z back out of that. So just like that. So now you have the cube, or the circle. Let me actually take the cube off the screen so I don't say that anymore. So circle with a dimension of 17.3, and that 17.3 being, again, what the width or the length between from this side of my finger to this side of my finger. So it not all the way around, not the circumference, but the diameter. So if I had a laser shooting from this side of my finger to this side of my finger, how long would that be? Or how long would the length of that be is your diameter, and your radius being half that. So from the center of my finger to the outside edge. I don't really want to give a math lesson, but I don't know my audience yet. So hopefully if you're using Blender, you know, you've taken basic math, some type of geometry. If not, definitely look into it. This deal will be definitely be helpful. But let's continue on. I'm kind of getting sidetracked a little bit. So what we just did here is create a mesh. We did a circle. We put all our settings in with 36 different edges, as I can show you here. 36 different points. What we set over here. We went ahead and made it a 17.3 diameter. When it asked me here, it was radius, so I had to divide that by 2. So it ended up being 17.3. So now we're going to go ahead and hit tab, go into edit mode, or you can go into edit mode by going up here, go into edit mode. And what we're going to do now, we're going to extrude. So you can hit this little triangle button here, or you can hit T and it'll pop up your little options, just like Photoshop or something like that, where it'll pop up all your little toolbox here options here. So you can remember, T is for toolbox, and that's where all your tools are. So if you hit T, your toolbox will pop up and show you exactly what you're looking for. So what we want to do extrude region here. You can do that again. If you see when you hover over it, it tells you the shortcut is if it'll stay there. The shortcut is E. So we can hit E and it should extrude. And we want to extrude on the Y axis. So we're going to go ahead and extrude on the Y axis. Now this part is very important for the way I model this. Very important. So why I put the center or the origin at the center. So this will be at the center, and I rotate it here. But essentially, I want this origin, center origin, to be on this. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Trying to make this quick. I want it to be on this side of the circle or the ring, because I'm going to mirror. I'm going to take this side and I'm going to model this side, but it's going to duplicate to the other side. And I'll show you how that is real quick. So we're going to go ahead and select the object, get out and go back into object mode, select the object, goes over here to the properties, or this, what is this? I think it's called properties panel. Yeah, properties panel. Go over here to the properties panel, hit the wrench, and once you hit the wrench, you click on modifier here, and then we're going to go ahead and mirror this. So go ahead and generate a mirror. Once you generate the mirror, go ahead and click off this X and click Z. And once you click Z, you see it duplicated everything to the other side, just like we want. Alright, why that's important is, let's say I pull an edge over here like this. You see the other side does the same exact thing. And that's kind of how I want to model. I want to go ahead and model this side, and I don't want to model this side to go back and model this side to keep it consistent. I want to model one side, and then I can, duplicate it. And if you really want to get fancy, you can actually do 2 mirrors and model each side and do it like that. But to keep it simple for this lesson, this is how you use a mirror modifier to model both sides. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and right click and shade smooth, and that's just going to give it a nice smooth shade. If you have different settings where it's not right click, you can go ahead and hit object, shade smooth, and it'll be right there as well. So with that being said, you see now Z shows a 2.6 millimeter, and that's being how wide it is now. So we're going to go ahead and just make it let's make it a 2. It's a 2 millimeter width band here. But you're probably thinking, like, that band looks very sharp and doesn't look like the style of band I would wear. Well, we're going to go ahead and do 2 main points that are non-destructive, but make this super fast and super quick, and make it super easy to change later on. So first thing is, now that we have, and this will apply for any type of model, but now that we have a plane or a surface, we can go back to modifiers. If you forgot how to get there, it's the wrench in the properties panel. Go to modifiers, and then we're going to hit solidify, and that essentially solidifies your plane or your face, not your face, but your model's face. So if you have a strip of something, it'll solidify where it makes it thicker. So it'll bring it out like an extrude, it'll bring it outwards. And we're going to go ahead and add that. And again, it's like I was saying before, it's non-destructive because I didn't extrude it and add extra geometry. It's still all the same, this same strip of circle mesh here. So boom, you got that. I think that's a little thick myself, so we're going to do a 1 millimeter. Boom, there it is, 1 millimeter. Alright, so the other part of this, to make this look real as well, we're going to go back to the wrench. This is one more thing. This is always good to add to any model that you do. A subdivision surface modifier. You're going to add that. So make sure your objects are in this order. So you have the mirror, you have the solidify, and you have the subdivision surface. So make sure they're in that order. And then I like to go ahead. I usually set mine to 3, but I'm gonna just set it to 2 right now. And boom, you have a ring. Look at that. You have a nice base mesh ring. And if you want to make, let's say you want to make the edges a little sharper, instead of having to go in and model each individual edge or bevel each individual edge, you can select this edge loop by, you know, going to where you can select edges, double clicking on one of the edges, and it'll select the whole loop. And then under item, so you might be under tool, but under item, if you do a mean crease, you see the edges get a little sharper, and that goes for both sides. Because remember, it's mirrored, so it's what's mirrored on one side, it'll do it on the other side as well. So you can do a mean crease, and you see as I you know slide the slider further along, it gets sharper, like so. So I don't want it that sharp. This is, I would consider this I want to do like a female ring. Maybe. I'm not really a ring, it's an example, but let's say I'm just making a wedding ring or something. I'm just going to bring this back in, make it a little thinner, and look, you have a nice base mesh. And you're probably wondering, like, how did you get your model to look like that? Like, how did you get it to turn red like this? And all that is a mocap shader, and I'm gonna show you how to do that real quick. So it's not necessarily anything I did, but your settings are probably at studio still. If you're new to Blender, you're probably still set at studio, where up here you can kind of toggle all of the different ways to view your model. So if you're here, what is this viewer called? This is a solid shading. If you're under solid shading, you can go to where it says lighting and hit matte cap, and it'll show like, and even if you don't have the red one and you want the red one, just click the little example or preview window, and it'll give you all these different options which you can choose from. So let's say I don't even want red. I want to do like something closer to what I'm looking for. You know, you could do it like that. Boom. So there it is. I was tempted to go further into the lesson, but I'm just go ahead and hold it here for now, just to keep it simple. Practice this. Practice this. Practice this. Practice this. We definitely showed you how to set your world scale to millimeters, how to toggle your world scale from millimeters to imperial. So even if you're changing different scenes, if you're changing to modeling a house, for instance, you want to be in feet or even yards. You know, it just depends on what you're trying to do. But again, now you know how to set your world scale. You know how to use your dimensions or your settings of your dimensions in the little your little options area, where you can set your dimensions for whatever object. So that goes for any object you have. And again, how to model the ring using your modifiers, very key. Use your modifiers to model your ring, so you can have a non-destructive model. So essentially you can make little changes here and there, and it will change throughout your whole ring, where you're not having to pull points at every part of your model. But again, I hope this was helpful for you. It was helpful for me when I figured it out and I learned these things, and hopefully it's helpful for you. That's part of the reason why I started this whole course for ring modeling. And a lot of this ring modeling actually kind of segues into other types of modeling. So again, you'll find little tricks and tips in this course that will help you model other things that you probably need in the future. But before you actually log off this video, do not forget to subscribe and like our video. Again, this just kind of helps the algorithm put it out there in the world, and helps the next person to learn how to model their ring. Again, hope this was helpful for you. Thank you for watching DigitalREM. I thank you for being here. here. Look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we actually cover how to add stones to your ring, probably add a setting to your ring. I haven't decided how far I want to go along in the process till we cut that video off and then go to the next video. Like here, I was kind of tempted, to be totally honest with you, I was kind of tempted to go into how to do the shader part, but I think the shader part will be a good lesson for itself. So I think that we're going to stick with the modeling, and I think the next phase of this production will be modeling the prongs and the stones and the settings into your ring, and how to use different techniques to do that. So we'll just go ahead and hop right into it when I see you next time. Later, y'all. Peace.